Yesterday, like in the previous class, we have discussed about the like how the rule service body will trigger when we create the change request, right? So now I'll show you how the workflow service processor body will trigger, like how the workflow will work in the background. Okay. So this is the customer menu. So this is the role which we have for the customer creation. So let me search for any customer. So now I will do like I have the access to just block and unblock the change request. Like when I am creating a new change request, the data is not correct in the system. So I'm not able to do it. So I'll just show you by blocking some customer. Okay. So yeah. So this is the sold to customer. So I'll just take this customer and I'll do block, okay? So before that, let me put the breakpoint in the service processor body so that it will trigger in the background. So implementations in the check, we don't have anything. In the dynamic agent, we have one implementation. So I'll put it here. First, let's check what is the change request type we have defined for blocking or unblocking the change request. Okay, customer, sorry. So here in the general settings, process modeling, in the change request, create change request type. So here Z C. Okay. So this is build to, this is ship to, sold to. Yeah. So here you can see customer block or unblock sold to. So this is the change request type. So let me copy this and let's check the workflow decision tables which we have assigned for this. So what's the T code? USMD underscore SSW underscore rule. So this is the T code where we maintain the rule based workflow decision tables. Okay. So here I'll open this change request type, that is customer block or unblock sold to, and continue. So here we have three decision tables, that is single value decision table, user agent decision table, non-user agent decision table. So here in the single value decision table, we have 00 step and 34, 60, 90, 91, 92, 95. So these are the different steps we have. And let's check if we have anything in the dynamic agent determination. Okay. So now let's check how this workflow will work. Okay. So first in the 00 step, the next step will be, what is the next step here? 34 is the next step. So it has to route to 34 step. And 34 step dummy. So is it in user agent or non-user agent? We need to check. So it is not maintained. So it is taking the dynamic agent determination. Okay. So here we have dynamic agent selection. So now let's submit this. Let's block this customer. So I have selected one customer and I am clicking on the block button. Okay. So first, let me take one from this SC16 in from the table BUT 000, and the grouping is Sol 2. Okay, so here Sol 2 vendor. Let me take this one. And so, yes. So here in the customer BPID. This is marked for deletion. Let's take another one. One. This is in progress. Two. Okay. So block. Okay. So now I'm just trying to block this customer. Okay. So description for the change request, we need to give the description. The change request number will be auto generated. Okay. So the description block sold to. Okay. Next, here in this central blocking data UABB, we have the blocking data. That is this BP, and this is the description. And if we want to block, we need to click on this checkbox. Okay. So I have clicked on this checkbox, and next. So this rule service baddie triggered in the background. Okay. So now let me just continue. Continue. Okay. So why this is triggered? We haven't changed the debugger user ID. So that is still with my ID. So that's why it triggered. So now we need to change the work debugger user ID to workflow user ID. So then only when we submit the change request, the workflow baddie implementations will trigger. Okay. So I'll just remove this. Remove this one. Save. Execute. Okay. So now here in this, go to utilities, settings, ABAP editor, debugging, user ID, SAP WFRT. Okay. Yes. Now come here. Now click on check. No errors found. So now submit. Now what we are doing, we have submitted the change request. So now workflow will trigger. Okay. Refresh. So here still you can see workflow is currently being processed. Now it triggered the dynamic agent baddie. Okay. So now in this dynamic agent baddie, what are all the parameters we have here? I'll just copy all this. Control C. Copy all this. Control C, and I'll paste here in the debugger. So I'll get the values for all these parameters. Okay. So what is the change request number we created? 1162. And the service name is ZMDG CREQ submit. So where we have this service? So here in our decision table, in the first step, if you see here 00, here the condition alias is maintained, that is DUM, but it is not maintained in the user agent or non-user agent. Okay, so it will not go here. Now new step is 34, but how the user has to determine based on the dynamic agent selection service. So this service, so it triggered this service and it is checking for the agent using the dynamic agent body. Okay, so now it like is it clear like how this dynamic agent service will work? So if we maintain any dynamic agent service in the step of the workflow, then it will check for the dynamic agents in the dynamic agent selection body. Okay. So now here you have CT non-user agent group and CT user agent group. So these are the changing parameters and this will have the, so here we maintain the user agent and non-user agent, right? So here what we are doing, we are saying to the system that we have to select the agents dynamically. That is, we don't have the user or non-user maintained here in the BRF plus application. So we need to go to here this dynamic agent selection body and we need the system has to check for the agents. So here if you see in the user agent group, it is blank. It is having 0 entries and the non-user agent also 0 entries. Okay. So now here you can see the next step is 34 that has come from this BRF single value decision table, that is new step is 34 and the new CR status is 15. So here you can see the new CR status is 15 and the new step is 34, but we don't have user agent group and non-user agent group yet. So this code will write the user agents or non-user agents to this changing parameter. Okay, so to this internal table it will assign. So now I am clicking on the F6, F6, F6. Okay, so now here in this SE11 table, we have maintained the user agents. Okay, so what is the change request type? It is ZCUS SLT5. So now let me go to SE16 in and this table Mdg dynamic underscore WF. So this dynamic agents we can maintain in the, we can create one Z table and we can maintain here, or else we can maintain using other BRF plus application, or we can directly write here if we know the user IDs directly, like if there are not many, then we can directly write here in the code, but that is not recommended approach. So the best approach is to create one Z table and maintain it here, or else create one BRF plus application decision table and in the decision table maintain the dynamic agents. Okay. So here in the change request type, what is our change request type? Windows V ZCUS SLT5, right? So I am going to check number of entries. So we have 7 entries. Okay. Now, so these are the different agents we have maintained. So what is our step? 34 is our step, right? So here how we have maintained is based on the sales organization and the step, next step and the status, we will be determining the agent value. Okay, so here now let's go to this debugger and run this select query. Okay, so this is the internal table LT Dyn WF we are using. So I am just clicking on the F6. So we got 7 entries, right? So these are the 7 entries we have checked. We have seen now in the SC16 and also we got the 7 entries only. So these are the 7 entries and the debugging also we got 7 entries. The same 7 entries we got. Okay, now let me go to the next step. F6. Now here it is checking the change request type if it is BLT2 or BLT5. So if it is like build to change request type, they have approvers based on the build to. Okay. Now our is what? Ours is sol2. So now this will not run. So this if condition will not run. Else if SLT2 or SLT5. So ours is SLT5. So this else if condition will work. So now it will go into this code F6. So now here we have created one Z class. Under that Z class, we have maintained one method that is to get approvers sol2. So we have written some logic here. So what it will do first, it will check based on this change request number, it will get what are all the sales organization information we have. Okay. So now let's go into this code. Okay. So what are all the exporting, importing and changing parameters here we have? So these all are customization code only. So this we have maintained based on our business requirement, we have maintained it. Okay. So in future if you get anything like to get the approvers based on some conditions, you can just use this approach, but the approach should not be same like what we used, but you can think of a better approach and you can proceed with your changes. So now here what are all the exporting parameters we are using? Service name we are passing, and the change request type and CR number. And what we are getting, importing any error messages. And also we are changing the user agent group, new step and new CR status and the non-user agent group. Okay. So now let's go into this Z class method. Okay. So now I am clicking on the F5. So it's not yet done. So here you observe we are in class MDG C agent determination now. In the method dynamic agent select get dynamic agents. Okay. So now I am going to F5. So now we are in class ZCL dynamic workflow customers. Under that method get approver sold to. Okay. So now here also we are getting the same based on the change request type. We are getting the information from this Z table, the same Z table which we have used in the dynamic agent only. Okay. Now F6, F6. So we got LT dynamic workflow internal table with 7 entries. Okay. Now case IV service name. So what is our service name? ZMDG CREQ submit. Okay. So here this constant is having this service name. So in our case it will go into this logic. Okay. So F6. So here what we are checking, if this internal table is not initial, then go to this code. Okay. So it is not initial, right? So it is having some data, then it is not initial. So this if condition is satisfying. So F6. Now it will go into this code. In the same class, different method. Okay. So for that, what is the exporting parameter? Change request number and the change request type. So based on this change request number and change request type, what are we getting? General data changed. So what is the general data? What is the sales organization data and other information like component ID or something like that we are getting. So why we need this is, so in this dynamic agent workflow, how we have differentiated the roles like the users based on the sales organization and company code like this, right? So we need to get this information from the change request. So based on whatever the change like sales organization or company code we have checked. So based on that we need to get the approval, correct approval. So that's why we have used that logic there. Okay. So now let's go into the logic. Give me a second. Okay. So now let's go into this F5 or else this is just a like code only. So I'll just click on F6. So let's check what information we got. So LV general changed. Yes. Sales organization changed. This is empty. And MLT empty. Sales ID empty. Component empty. 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 So we have only general information here. So here sales organization is not changed, component is not changed, general information is changed. So based on this, how we are reading with object is changed, else is general. So now we need to go to this internal table, and here what is the object changed now? General. So we have to read this entry. Okay. So here in the general, what's the next step? So only general information is changed. So the next step will be 90 directly. And the step type is 8 and status is Z1 and this is the role. Okay. So now F6. So here we have read table, that internal table into one work area with key this field in that internal table where that field equals to ZEN. So it will read that first entry. So this entry will be read. Okay. Now F6, if it is not equals to 0, I mean, if there are no entries in this table, then it will give an error. Okay. But we have an entry there. If work area is not initial, now we need to pass the new step, new status and the agent, right? So F6, so we are passing CV new step, CV new CR status. Now you can see it is changed to 90 and Z1. Earlier it was 34 and 15, right? Now here observe, now CT user agent group is empty. It is having 0 entries. Now we are passing some entries to that. F6, 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 F6. So now we have filled our work area and we are doing the append to add the user agent values to our changing parameter. Okay. So now F6. So this agent group work area is having the information like this structure. Okay. So here you can see user agent AG, user type is AG and the user value is this role. Okay. So now I'm clicking on the F6. Now you can see CT user agent. It is filled with one entry. Okay. So you can see this, right? One entry. Earlier it was 0. Now in this CT user agent, we have agent group is 001, step type is 8, and the user agent is having one entry, that is user agent user type is AG and the user value is this role. Okay. So now what is this step type? Okay. So let's go to MDG, IMG, classic mode, central governance, general settings, process modeling, change request, what here? So workflow, rule based workflow, define change request steps, not define change request step types. Okay. Step type. So our step type is 8. That is activate change request. So what actions it has? Reject and activate button. So here you can see, like we discussed, right, this sequence. So here you can see activate one button and reject one button. So activate is the sequence 1 and reject is the sequence 2. So now you will have clear idea how this sequence will work. Okay. So this is the step type and go back. So what is the new CR status? That is Z1. So let's check what is Z1. Okay. So here MDG IMG change request status, right? So here edit statuses of change request. So what's our status? Z1. So Z1 is to be approved by general data approver. Okay. So yeah, this is the status. Now go to the debugger F6, 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 F6. So now Again, we are into dynamic agent selection. Okay. So now what is our step? 90. So here we have 90 step. So it will go into this logic. Okay. So it will send mail notification like waiting for your approval. Okay. So F6, F6. So I'm just clicking on the F8 now. So we got the user, right? Like I think you got some idea how the user agent will determine when we use the dynamic agent, right? I'm clicking on F8. Now F8. Okay. Okay. Now it is done. Now here in this, we can check it is workflow is currently being processed. So now let me refresh this. So here you can see to be approved by general data approver. Okay. And here I don't have any buttons here. Why? I'll explain that later. So here we have what's next. Okay. So here in the what's next, what is this? 00 is the initial. Now we are in the 90 step and the next step is 99. That is complete. Okay. So here in the workflow log, you can check the users involved in this workflow. Okay, so here we have multiple users. Okay, why we have multiple processors here? We are using role, right? So with that role, multiple users can be assigned to that particular role. So here we have different users. We have different users in this role. So we have two test users. So let me log into this test user. Okay. So I'll just go to the, so here you can see background steps as well. So first it ran get change request type by change request number. These are all background steps. If you observe here work item type, these are all background step, and this is dialog step, that is user has to perform some action. And here in the processor for the background step, SAP WFRT is the user ID. So make sure you remember this user id, okay? Because in the interviews, interviewer may ask like how you can debug the workflow scenarios. Okay, so using the SAP WFRT, that is the workflow user, with this user only we can debug the workflow scenarios. Okay, and here for the dialog step we have multiple users. So this is not the workflow user. Why? This is not a background step. Some user has to perform action. Okay. So now let me log into. Oh, okay. I don't have the password. Sorry. Hmm. Okay, let me check here. I don't have it for the development system, but um, let me see whether I can, if I can add this role to my user. SU01, no authorization. Okay, tomorrow I'll ask to give the access to that role. Okay. Workflow log. Okay. No, so now you got like how this workflow log will be, right? So now the status has changed and the next step is determined correctly. So now here the users who are the approvers, they will get whenever they open this change request. So this change request will be in their workflow inbox. Okay, so here if you see this change request, right? So here in the change request and documents, we have my change request and display change request, display change documents, right? So here we have show created by me. If we click on to be processed by me, then it will show the change request which are waiting for my approval. Okay. So like that we can check that. So now let me go to the created by me. This is the workflow change request number created by me, and it is waiting for some approval that is involved with other users. So I have to wait until I get this approved, this change request approved. And then what's the next step? It will route to that workflow user and it will process. Now here in our scenario, this is only single level approval. Okay, so now if this final check is approved, then it will be in complete status after activation. Okay, so any questions? I'll get this like user ID and password so that I can show you this um, actions, like how the action buttons will appear in the change request. Okay. So any questions still here?